everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Georgia, I hope you're well. It's the end of February. I don't quite know when that happened. This year just seems to be going by so quick already and it honestly blows my mind. But yeah, it's the end of Feb. So I thought today we'd go through sort of like the books that I read in February. Again, I did only read 4 books this month, which I am quite annoyed about. I'm slacking. The first book of this month took me 18 days to read and I have no idea why because I was really enjoying it. But yeah, I got off to a really slow start this month and then just sort of smashed out 3 books towards the end of the month. So it's been a pretty slow start to the year. I did 4 books in January, 4 books in February, but that does sort of keep me on track for my 2025 goal. I have done a video in like sort of going through all my 2025 goals. I think it's up here. I'll link it up here. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and let's get into my February reads. I'm just getting them up on my Goodreads just so I know what I rated them because, to be honest, I can't remember for a lot of them. So the first book I read in January was The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Now, I really enjoyed this book. So this is sort of like a fantasy romance. It's vampires, well, it's a human stuck in a vampire sort of like world, and it's like a trial-based fantasy adventure, high stakes sort of scenario. This was the book that took me 18 days to read, and I honestly have no idea why. Like, I rated this book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It just seemed to take me forever to get through. It is quite a lengthy book, like over 500 pages, so don't get me wrong, it is a long book, but I loved it so much. I really enjoyed this book. The characters in this book I love. Araya is the female main character in this book and she's such a badass, so she's the human. The King, Vincent, is a vampire himself, but he for some reason took to Araya and sort of brought her up as his own. And then we have Rain, which is the main male character in this book, and he sort of like takes to her from the beginning, and like within the first sort of trial he's already trying to help her out and it's all a bit like, why are you helping, what's going on? But yeah, honestly, I absolutely love this book. The trials are really clever. The magic system in this book is really unique. I'm not going to sit here and lie to your face. I don't fully understand it. But that's just a me problem. I'm pretty sure if I actually sat and read the glossary properly in the back that I would be able to make sense of this. But yeah, there's basically like 3 sort of houses. So there's the House of Shadow, the House of Night, and the House of Blood. And sort of like each house, each sort of type of vampire has their own sort of magic system. So I do understand it. Saying I don't understand it would be like, I do kind of get it, but I feel like it took me personally a while to get my head around, which is I think why it took me so long to read this book, because it was just sort of learning that new magic system, that new world, just sort of took a bit of doing. But this is the first book. So there's 3 duologies within this sort of set of books. So there's this one and there's Ashes and the Cursed King, which are both the Nightborn, so the House of Night duology, and then I think the first one in the next duology is out, which I think is the House of Shadow duology, and then yeah, there's going to be the House of Blood duology as well, but I don't think any of those are out yet. And there is a couple of novellas. So I think there's 6 Scorched Roses. It's a 6 Scorched Roses and the Vampire Conqueror. I'm sure they're the 2 novellas, or not necessarily novellas, but they're like related to the story. I'm gonna go with it. I can't find it, so I'm just gonna commit. I'm 99% sure I'm right there. So yeah, so I really enjoyed this one. It's another 5 star in 2025, so I'm not doing bad. Is that 2 or 3 5 stars I've had now this year? 2 and a reread. So this is my second official 5 star of the year. I really enjoyed it. Can't wait to get to the next one, but the next one is chunky. Like, it's like 700 and something pages. It is a big commitment, that one, but I'm really looking forward to getting further into this series. The next book I read in February was Lost and Lassoed. Now this is book 3 in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I always really struggle to say that. For those of you who like Heartless by Elsie Silver, you will love this book. It is a very similar setup. So it's sort of Grumpy Sunshine, single dad nanny sort of situation. So we have Teddy and Gus. So Teddy is Emmy's best friend, if you've read this series before. So she's the main character in book 1. And then it's Gus, which is the oldest of the Ryder brothers. This book, I did rate 4 stars. Now at the beginning it did annoy me a little bit because it is literally the exact same setup as Heartless by Elsie Silver, so I was a bit like, am I just rereading Heartless? And I love Heartless. It's my favourite from the Elsie Spring. I always say that. It's my favourite from the Elsie Silver Chestnut Spring series. So it is very similar to that. So when I got to about a third, maybe halfway through this book, I was starting to get a bit like, this is literally just the same thing, this is the same book. But then as we get sort of like to the middle and towards the end, it does sort of go in a very different direction to Heartless. So it redeemed itself in that. I was starting to get quite mad about it. But I did end up really, really enjoying this book. I did rate it 4 stars. I just love, absolutely love, like a small town, country, cowboy romance. Like, they're such palate cleansers for me. These books, any of the Elsie Silver books that I've read so far, they're just perfect for when either you're struggling to sort of get through books, or like, if I've read a lot of like quite heavy fantasy, I do love to just drop back to one of these. And it's not because they're simple, it's just they're so easy to read and so easy to get lost in that I just think they're perfect. They're just perfect to read in the middle of sort of your big heavy fantasies. So I enjoyed this book so much. I flew through it. Like I said, the beginning did annoy me a little bit, but once I got past that and just sort of accepted it, it was fine and I really enjoyed it. These are spicy, these books. If you've read the Chestnut Spring series, they are very similar. You can get these in the works now for like a £5, I want to say. They are really cheap, so if you're wanting just like a nice, quick, easy cowboy romance, I definitely recommend the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I've enjoyed all 3 books so far. Yeah, and book 4 comes out in April. If you've not watched my last video, I talk about all the books that I'm looking forward to coming out this year, and April is going to be such a good reading month. There's like 3 or 4 books coming out in April that I'm so excited for. And the next one in this series is one of them. So yeah, this is book 3, Teddy and Gus, Grumpy Sunshine, Single Dad Nanny. It's just a perfect little setup. I love this sort of read. I absolutely love it. The next book I read in February was That Kind of Guy by Stephanie Archer. Now this is the first book that I've read by her. So this is the Queen's Cove series. This book was fine. Like, it was fine. It was a good time. It was an easy read. It's cringy though. If you can't get through a cringy book, I wouldn't recommend these. So it's a marriage of convenience or engagement of convenience. To give you an outline of this book, so we've got our main characters Emmett and Avery. Now Avery is sort of like the town's, like, she's just that person that everybody loves. Like, she gets on with everybody in the town. She looks after people. She is the manager of a restaurant that she's hoping to buy. And then we've got Emmett, who's sort of like a bit of a playboy. He's known for sort of not settling down, not being very responsible, but he decides he's going to run for mayor to sort of fix a big problem in the town that's not being fixed by the current mayor. Avery wants to buy the restaurant that she's running and basically can't afford it, can't get a loan. Emmett is loaded, and they basically make a deal where he needs to be seen as responsible and holding down a relationship and trustworthy and reliable, and she needs the money. So they basically decide to get engaged to show that he's like responsible and reliable, and then he can also co-sign the loan for her restaurant. So it's marriage of convenience. It is a bit of an enemies to lovers. Like, Avery cannot stand Emmett at the beginning of this book. Like, she literally hates him. Marriage of convenience, enemies to lovers, that sort of vibe. It is a fun time. Like, it's a small town. It was fine. Like, I don't remember all the details, and I only read it like a week ago, but it was fine. I rated this 3.5 stars. It was a book. I don't really know what else to say on that. It was quite cute. Like, the ending's really sweet, but it is very cringy. It is quite a spicy one as well. I do like a marriage of convenience book, but I just wasn't loving the setup. I don't feel like a lot really happens in this book, I'm not gonna lie. So there's 4 of these books out, so I think each brother sort of gets a book. We have met all the brothers already, so I'm kind of looking forward to the development of the other characters and things, but I'm not like desperate to pick them up, but I will get to them. And then the last book that I read in February was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I read these books out of order. There's 3 books in this series. There's Part of Your World, there's Yours Truly, and there's Just for the Summer. I read book 2, book 3, and then this one. And reading this one has sort of like explained the rest of the story that I have been missing to me. So this follows our main character Alexis, and she is an ER doctor in a family full of like really fancy, really like high up surgeons. She has sort of like this family legacy that her family are expecting her to live up to. Like, she is the last in sort of the Montgomery family. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, to be honest. She's got this really high expectations on her from her family. Her dad's an ass. Her mom's not much better. She is driving home one day when her car like swerves off the road, and this man Daniel comes and sort of helps her out. She goes to just like a pub down the road, and basically he's there too. They're in this really, really teeny little town. That's where Daniel lives. And this is basically like a opposites attract sort of vibe. I don't want to give you too much information because it'll just spoil it for you. But if you look at the front of the cover, you can kind of see he's sort of like a farm man, very country type, out of the way, small town, and she's in the big city. And this sort of book is how they navigate that, because obviously they're from completely different worlds, and she has an ex-partner who is just horrible to her, who like has abused her for years. Yeah, it's just sort of them navigating this new relationship, because he will never be able to fit into her world. She wants to fit into his, but they've both got these family legacies that they need to sort of like stick to and uphold. So it's just sort of them navigating that. I really, really enjoyed this book. This book has made the other books make so much more sense. So like Alexa's best friend is Brianna, which is the main character in Yours Truly, and her ex Neil is in book 3, and in book 3 they talk about how much Neil's just a horrible person, and I never really got it fully, and now I do. So if I'd have read them in the right order, this all would have made sense, but I didn't, because I'm a muppet. So here we are. I rated this book 4 stars. I did really, really enjoy it. I read this in like literally a couple of days. Had a really good time. I love Abby Jimenez's writing. I said it in the last like 3 videos I've posted, but she just writes such lovely romances, but they always have this really like heavy mental health topic in them, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. I do plan on going back and reading the rest of her books. So I've read the Part of Your World sort of series. I want Doug's book. Doug needs a book. So they're the 4 books I read this month. I have had quite a good reading month. Like I say, they've all been quite high ratings. That Kind of Guy wasn't my favourite, but it was still like a 3.5 read, so again, not exactly a bad rating. So that is all for today's video. I am going to try and read some more in like sort of the next few months. As it gets into the nicer weather, I'll be spending a lot more time sort of sat in the garden reading, so I'm hoping to get more books read. If you've read any of the books I've spoke about today, make sure to let me know what your thoughts on them were. So that's everything for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And as always, my social medias, Amazon and Goodreads and things are in the description below. I hope you're having a lovely week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.